States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Right. So we will kick off our meeting with our focus on students and community, and we're going to learn about Arab American Heritage Month from Mike Steed from CAIS. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah. All right. Oh, perfect. Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm Mike Stead. I'm the principal at Clackamas Academy of Industrial Sciences, or CAIS. And this month, I'm here to talk to you about Arab American Heritage Month and some cool projects that have been happening around the district. So first, I wanted to start by highlighting Beaver Creek Elementary School, which did daily lessons highlighting an Arab American person of the day in their class. Gardner Middle School had a similar plan with daily advisory slides highlighting important contributions of Arab American people. You can see an example of the slide in the presentation that I've attached. And then at CAIS, which is both a middle school and a high school, there was a combined project on spotlighting Arab American women's history, specifically since it was also Women's History Month when they started this project, through a poster project in our 6th and 7th grade social studies classes. So wanted to bring that to the board and highlight some of the awesome work that's happening around OCSD. And then while I'm here, I thought I would just do like a quick stand-up pitch of CAIS and who we are and what we do, because I haven't gotten to really, I think we've had like one session where I've gotten to say hi to everybody this year, but Clackamas Academy of Industrial Sciences is a district-sponsored charter program. We have about 165 students in middle school, so grades 6 through 8, and that really combines, like what makes CAIS special is its career technical education programming, so like getting to watch all of our 6th graders weld for the first time this fall, like nervously shaking while they're playing with fire was a highlight. They're all better than I am at it now, which is really awesome to see. So that focus on those elective opportunities throughout middle school is a really critical part of what we do. We also have a high school program with, again, about 160 students this year in that program. All of our students are learning the district core curriculum, like we're aligning with teaching and learning to make sure that we're delivering that core curriculum while also offering robust career technical education offerings for students. You can see in this slide a group of our kids attending Manufacturing Day, and we sent every high school student at CAIS to go out and check out local industry tours back in October. And then actually tomorrow we're getting ready to send a group of them out to IBEW to go check out the trades program out there. Part of what makes us special is our connection to Clackamas Community College and this campus. We have about 20 to 25 students each term that take coursework up at CCC through our dual articulation agreement, either half-time or full-time. And this spring at graduation, we should have 3 or 4 students, depending on how this last term shakes out, that will graduate both with a high school diploma and an associate's degree. Which is such an awesome opportunity for our students here in Oregon City to get to be able to have a connection to the college and be able to come and kind of live in both worlds where we can help to support them through that transition. And then finally, the last thing I wanted to just talk about is what sets CAIS apart for some other programs in the district, just to highlight. We try really hard to not duplicate programs in Oregon City. Like another role that I have for the district is being our career tech ed administrator for the district. And so trying to set CAIS's programming separate from what happens at Oregon City High School or at OCSLA. So at CAIS currently, we have a manufacturing program, which is quite large, includes metalwork, machining, wood, a communications program that's all about video production, and then an engineering program. And then I just also wanted to let the board know that next year, CAIS will be adding 2 additional programs of study. One we're really excited about in agricultural science, which I know Dr. Crane has spent a good amount of time talking with the board about this year. And we just hired our ag science teacher, and she's really excited to get started with us next week. And then we're also going to be partnering with Clackamas Community College for the district's first dual CTE program, where students will start at CAIS in an automotive program, and then they'll come up to CCC to finish that program out and hopefully graduate with credentials to go straight into industry after they finish. So I just wanted to share a little bit about us and what we do, and thank you so much for the opportunity to come and talk to the board today.
Thank you
And
so much.
happy to take any questions if you have any.
Does anyone have any questions?
Do you have any feedback from the students on which is going to be their favorite future program?
That's a great question. I've got, right now my early numbers for agriculture would say agriculture is my winner. I have over 95 students who are interested next year, but around the district and taking agriculture science already. And that's without us being able to go do the tour where we bring an animal around and convince more students how awesome ag science is. But automotive has proven to be really popular too. We started those classes this spring, and they've all been completely full at CAIS. Yeah.
Have you already had your information sessions, or what's enrollment?
Enrollment is up for us for next year, yeah. So right now, we're sitting at about 320-ish total, but next year, we're looking in the 360 to 380 range, depending on where final students land. The nice thing about being a public charter is that we can take students from all around Clackamas County, which is a huge asset for us and for the district, and we're finding that some of our friends in neighboring districts are looking for opportunities like what CAIS has, and so we're getting a lot of outside and inside interest for us for next year.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to ask one more about the Arab American history.
Yeah, please.
And that would be for anyone who might have information on that. Was there any students that were able to share information, or families that were able to share information about their own cultural backgrounds?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think Sarah wants to jump in for a minute, and then, or Dr. Crane, sorry.
Sarah's good. So we ask every month, like, what's happening in all the schools? And sometimes people share and sometimes they don't. We don't, nag them on this one. So I'm not saying that didn't happen somewhere, but those were not the people that responded to Mike about this one. It's a good idea, though.
I like the combination of the women's history. And
Yeah, I was really
Arab
excited about that
that's-
project. It was a really
cool.
cool organic opportunity that came up. It was awesome to get to see that combine.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so
Awesome.
much. We appreciate you coming.
Thank you all so much. I appreciate it.
Great. Okay, so moving on to recognition and good news about Oregon City Schools. We are coming up on Licensed Educator Appreciation Week. Lisa Harmon.
Yes. On May 5th through May 9th, we will be celebrating our licensed educators and letting them know how much we appreciate all their hard work, their dedication to our students and our communities, and the endless hours that they put in preparing for our students to be at school. We have about 434 licensed educators that we will acknowledge on we try to acknowledge them often, but in special recognition on the 5th through the 9th.
Oh, that's fantastic. They definitely are deserving of recognition, so thank you. Moving on to National Volunteer Week. Emily?
All right, good evening. If I haven't met you, I'm Emily Behunin, the principal at John McLaughlin Elementary, and I am super excited. Next week is National Volunteer Appreciation Week, and as you know, we could not do this without our volunteers. So I just have the pleasure of talking a little bit about JME and how we bring in amazing adults into our schools, and keep in mind this is true K-12. So we see adults in lots and lots of ways. So thank you to them for all their hard work. They're not here tonight because they're taking a break. So, yes. One of the ways when you think about volunteering for schools is we see our volunteers come into the classrooms. And some of our volunteers are so confident with that. And these volunteers are parents, they're guardians, they're grandparents, they're retired educators. Some of them just live in the neighborhood and want to come by and help out. And so as in a lot of the elementary schools, you will see our volunteers working maybe one-on-one, reading with a kiddo. And what a great opportunity for that kid to have another adult just give them a voice. We have some adults who are really confident. They're like, I'm going to take a whole small group. I got this. And what a fun experience for them to do that. We also have, some adults who come in and help with tag. They help with math. But working in the classroom is definitely a huge impact for our kids. If that's not, something a volunteer wants to do, we benefit so much for volunteers who help throughout the school. So some of our adults come in and they just help in the library. They help shelve books and just help make our process work better. We have adults who can just come once a year and they do our events. And that's through like true K-12. And how lucky are we that they come for that dance? They help at that jogathon. They make those events happen for our school community, and it is just a great gift to all of our kids. This year at John McLaughlin, we're really fortunate. We have some adults who did our No Place for Hate. And so I don't know if you know much about the program, but our kiddos definitely promote that. And so we have some adults who help run that every 2 weeks. They've promoted our Buddy Bench this year, our Kindness Month in February, and have just continued to build our program. We also had adults this year who did Battle of the Books. So they can't come all the time, but they came for a week in February and got to learn all about these cool books and help our kids practice for battles. And that was in all our schools who did Battle of the Books. So it was awesome. As I think about how we were able to get so many volunteers, we really, are thinking about two things. Do we have multiple opportunities, and is it flexible? We know these adults are so busy, and some of them can come once a week. Some can come once a month. Some can come once a year. And so we have just been able to say thank you, thank you, thank you to those adults because we have lots of opportunities. They come and do small groups for us. They come and do student interviews, especially at secondary, thinking about the AVID program, thinking about kids preparing those last couple years of high school. We have some adults who come and do student interviews with kids just to help prepare, and what a gift. At some of our schools, they come and do lunch and recess. It's a fun time. Kids are at their best, I think. They love lunch and recess. And that's just a great place for them to hang out with our students. They come and do that one-on-one reading. They might be helping with math. They come and do those school events. Even in high school, we still need them, and we adore them for coming to those events. They make all the difference. And sometimes, and this is one of our goals, especially at the elementary level, is to highlight more of our volunteers, their skills and experience. They come for career days at the secondary, and we need to start bringing them in at the elementaries more. They have amazing professions and experiences, and even if it's once a year, this is what it means to be an author. Our kids would eat that up and would love to hear about it. So I know that's one of our goals in honoring our volunteers and continuing to bring those adults into our system. But they do so much for our students, and so I'm grateful to be here to say thank you. Just ending with a quick quote from Coretta Scott King, who says, "The greatness of a community is most accurately measured by the compassionate actions of its members." And I would say that is true for our Oregon City community. Coming in and being willing to step into our schools is a true gift and a show of compassion. So thank you, and shout out to them. It's all of next week if you have a chance. So, yes.
Thank you.
Hey, questions?
Questions from the board?
I am a strong advocate of volunteering. I love what you're doing as far as bringing it not just from the elementary level, because we see everybody comes elementary.
Yeah.
And then we slowly lose them middle school, and then we very rarely see helpers in high school.
Mm-hmm.
And so do you have any other ideas you're thinking on how to really push people to stay?
I think having some meetings because I will feed into Gardner, and so their PTSO has already reached out, and so making sure our volunteers have just at least that connection point, because I think that's where it sometimes gets lost. So we've already invited our 5th grade parents to the first PTSO meeting, just so they know some of the programs. Some of the programs that we do have in the district, like AVID, are a natural point to bring in adults, even if your kid's not in the program. So I think we're starting to be more strategic about it, but it is a great opportunity to help. And again, it doesn't have to be all the time, but just those once off makes all the difference for our kids.
I would say too that if the middle school principals were here, they would tell you that figuring out how to use Parent Square accurately to track and get people to sign up through there has helped their numbers. You may have noticed with the overview in the strategic plan goals, their numbers shot up, and they think that's why.
A little bit around pairing individuals and their skills and their availability with what you have going on. Is there someone that falls on at the school, or how does that look at JME?
Yeah, for JME, it's a lot of the classroom teachers as well as myself. I had a new volunteer start just this week, and we met last week, and they're like, I've not done this before. And I'm like, great, third grade has this great project. And they're like, I can do that. And so I think we're really trying to make sure that we have that touch point for them to make sure. And so many of our family members have done it in the past and just want to come back. And so that has helped, but classroom teachers are definitely a touch point, as well as kind of the administrative staff and helping with that. Yeah.
And kind of along those lines, as far as support or when they,
First get started.
when they first get started and throughout, do you have any systems in place? And I would just be curious overall if there's any.
I am fortunate. I walked into a system that was kind of already in place for so many, but I know our schools worked really hard this year in putting together some volunteer slideshows so they knew what to expect. And it also highlighted, hey, this is how we work with small groups. Do you want to come watch one first? If you're going to read with some kiddos, here are some reminders. And just giving them that ease of, hey, just listening to a kid is all they want. Giving them that voice is all they want. And helping the adult feel at ease because the kids are just excited and adults going to listen to them.
And we are working on an opportunity where families or community members could come in and get training on, how do you read to a kid in a way that's not just you're reading to the kid, but you're being interactive and things like that, just in case they want it. Wouldn't be required to volunteer by any means, but just as a help.
I would ask, so I spend a lot of time volunteering at my son's elementary school, and we usually see the same parents volunteering. And I'm wondering if there are strategies to kind of engage parents who are not necessarily inclined to volunteer or don't know about those opportunities, and how can we get those opportunities to those parents who might want to do it but don't know how or don't know how to sign up or are a little nervous about going into the schools.
Absolutely. Well, and I think that's where it comes into the multiple opportunities and being really upfront with our families to let them know, hey, this doesn't have to be that small group, but if you have a special skill or want to come in, if you just want to help with that art project, that time is so valuable to us. And so we're working on that. Our PTSO in our building shifted their meetings this year, so it is in the evening for more families as just one more touch point for families to be able to come and get involved and get information. And because I presented those as well, it was just another connection. So I know we're working on systems and we'll invite others as well because we want them there.
And just to clarify, all our volunteers, and I know the answer, but all our volunteers are background checked and trained and.
Correct. Yep, and that's true whether they're working in the building, going on the field trip, and they've gone through that piece. And I didn't know it was yearly here, but then we do it every year to make sure our families are up to date. And so I meet with the new kindergarten families tomorrow night, and we'll talk through how to do that as well. But yes, so they'll get background checked.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much. We're so appreciative for all of our volunteers and all of our staff that help coordinate volunteers. It's a lot of work, but it makes our school communities so much stronger. So thank you.
No, they're great. Thank you.
All right. Our superintendent's report.
Wonderful. I want to talk about 4 things this evening, just to share them with the board and our community. So first, I want to circle back on safety efforts that we have made improvements at the high school. So over spring break, we put reflective film on the trophy hall door, ED hallway, and the E hall. And it's basically there so that as you're passing by, if you're like in trophy hall and you go to use the restroom, prior to that, if somebody was on the outside and they're banging on the door, you're looking at them and then taking a sharp right into the bathroom. It's very awkward. So now you just can't see in, which is nice. So when the sign says you can't enter in this door, you're probably less likely to stand there and bang on the door because you don't know if anybody's on the other side. So we did install that reflective tape or film. We added another temporary security person. As you know, we put alarms on some of the doors, and we weren't sure with all these additional new actions if we would need a few more eyes and a few more hands. And so we added another temporary person, but the students are doing a remarkable job and are really utilizing those key entry points in the morning and making sure that they are not opening those doors. So it's been really great. And just continued focus on making sure kids are not wandering the halls, that they're in class, building those relationships to help them get into class. And it's been a really good improvement. So I thank the Oregon City High School staff and the students for their work on those efforts. Safety is never easy. It's not convenient. You have to walk around the building, but it does make a difference. In terms of budget and legislative updates, so as you know, the governor lobbed an $11.4 billion as her baseline, and the Ways and Means Committee has also echoed that. So at this point, we're still in the legislative long session, so we won't actually know the budget here probably until May or maybe into June, but we're assuming at this point that the 11.4 is the baseline. We're also watching some other things. The PERS bill that is in front of the legislature, which would reduce the impact by about 1.68%, which ours went up by 6. So 1.68% is a significant impact to us. So that looks good. They haven't voted yet, but it looks good. Also on the legislative floor is the conversation about either increasing the 11% cap or additional funding for high-cost disabilities. So we're continuing to watch that. Last Wednesday was the day that any bill had to get out of committee in order to move forward. And so those bills all moved forward, which was great. Also, the accountability measure is also looking like it has momentum and will be moving forward. That specific bill, they will have to work through the rules associated with it, but it looks like in addition to the accountability measures we've had thus far, 9th grade on track, graduation, 3rd grade reading, attendance, it looks like they'll be adding K-2 attendance and also 8th grade math, and then one other measure. So I think they will give us 4 choices and we'll learn which ones those are, and then we'll choose one additional measure. So we're continuing to watch that. April 28th is our next budget meeting, and so I will be sharing more with the budget committee just about what we know at that time and kind of how we're developing our budget, and we will be preparing a budget to share with the board and the committee in May. Also on the 28th, we are working through our COGNIA accreditation process, our district-wide accreditation process. Just as a reminder, this is something we're choosing to do. We are required to have our high schools accredited, but we really think it's important for us to have that outside look at our district. So on the 28th, they're doing virtual visits with key stakeholders. We're kind of getting close to the end here, so they will meet with some students and some teachers and community members and some board members. And that'll be kind of the last data gathering, and then they will make their final report, and we'll be sharing that with you in May? June, probably. And what that report will do will highlight the strengths that they see in our system and then areas that we could continue to grow. And if there's anything that is kind of you need to address this now, they will also identify that now at that time, and we can make sure that we meet those expectations. And then finally, we started bargaining with OSEA and OCEA. I want to thank Director White and Controlla for sitting on with OSEA, and Halpern and Controlla for sitting on OCEA. And we just started that, and it's important work, and want to thank everybody for participating. So,
Any questions from the board? Thank you, Dr. Spitzer. Do we have any patron input?
There is no patron input this
Okay.
evening.
Great. So we will move on to board communication. We have our student rep here, Ms. Fedemo. Do you have something to share with us?
Yes. Hi there, you guys. So, April, we have our prom coming up, which is very exciting. Our theme this year is At Last I See the Light, so like Tangled theme. I'm very excited for that. And along with it is our Spirit Week. We recently introduced a new Spirit Day called like Rochambeau, and it got a lot of interaction last time we did it, so we want to do it again. It's basically, so each student will receive like a beaded necklace in their second period class, and it's basically like a school-wide rock, paper, scissors tournament. So like you'll face off and then you get their necklaces and at the end of the day there's a prize for the person with the most. So actually, surprisingly, a lot of people participated, so we wanted to do it again this Spirit Week. And then before our dances, we always have a Cinderella's Closet, which is where students who maybe can't afford a dress or just need one can come in and get a dress for free. We get donations from any students or anyone who wants to donate, and as well as Abby's Closet. And we've recently started advocating for more like menswear to get donated, because previously it was only like dresses. So we just wanted to make that more inclusive, because we had some people reaching out about menswear. So we're getting that started. At the beginning of May, we have our campaign week. We just finished our interviews for our ASB elected officials. So campaign week will be coming up so that we have our executive positions for next year in student council. And then also at the beginning of May, we have our teacher appreciation week. So what we're doing for that is every year we do a staff breakfast. So in the morning, student council will use our amazing culinary facility to cook breakfast for all of staff, which is really amazing. And then some new things we're trying this year is one of the days we're going to be bringing around a little cart to each of the classrooms. It's going to have like some snacks and school supplies so that teachers can like take a couple things of what they need for their classroom, or just like a sweet treat for themselves. And we're also trying something, we're calling them like door notes. So we're going to have like a piece of poster paper on each teacher's door where students can leave like messages to their teachers to just like show their appreciation, even if they don't have their class anymore, so that the teachers can just like feel the love. Yeah. I think that's it. Any questions?
Questions from the board?
I have a question. I believe you were out front of Albertsons for the canned food drive.
Yeah. Yes.
How big did the Tower of Tuna get? Because I added
was
to some of
pretty
that, and you
Yeah.
guys were joking.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't look like this. I looked like a construction guy when I went
Yeah.
in there. But I recognize you, and we added to it. But it was, thank you for volunteering. And
Yeah.
that was probably volunteered to do it, and it's Volunteer Appreciation Week. So our students are volunteers too,
Yes.
and we appreciate when our students give back to
Yeah.
the community. But it looks like you guys were having some fun and stacking the cans up, and we
Yeah.
added to that. And I was wondering how high that got that day, because
I can't remember the exact number, but our canned food drive in total, I think, was one of the highest ones we've ever like done. So the total came out to over like 4,000 cans. So
that's
it was
awesome.
really amazing. Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
I wanted to follow through on your donations for menswear and women's wear for prom. Where can people contact you for that? How can they donate?
So you can contact our advisor, Tiffany Traver, or we have an email. It's OCHScommunityservicecommittee@gmail.com. Either of those will work, or often if you contact the administrative team, they can contact us. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
That was a big update. Thanks for all that.
Thank you, guys.
And we have Asha from OCEA.
Yeah, hi everyone. Okay, so let's see. As we've already mentioned a couple of times, we are also obviously looking forward to Teacher Appreciation, being the certified union of staff members. I know that we all appreciate each other a lot, and it's always fun to get to celebrate each other. And then this week, you know, we have this beautiful, beautiful sun outside. But we're noticing also that with the sun, we're just keeping an eye on our classrooms getting warmer too. As we're remembering at the beginning of the year when a lot of us were kind of roasting in our classrooms, you know, CAIS doesn't have windows that open upstairs. I know we all remember from the beginning of the year. Or our elementaries that don't have air conditioning. So we're looking at that and making sure to come up with plans with our administrators to make sure we've all got fans and stuff. So hopefully, you know, hopefully it won't get much hotter than this, but you never know. And then some other cool things that have been happening at a lot of buildings. I know a lot of our title schools, our elementary schools, have been doing different kind of family nights recently. Now that it's the spring, it's some, families are out and about and the days are lighter, longer. It's fun to have evening events. So I know Beaver Creek had a really successful math night recently. That was fun. We had some teachers volunteering for that. And there was a glow night at Redland that was fun for a lot of staff members to go to as well. And then I know Holcomb did a weekend zoo field trip. And that we'll have 2 more of those as the school year goes on too, for families to get to go to. So that's been some fun stuff going on at some of our elementary schools that I know staff have enjoyed getting to either volunteer their time with or show up for those evening events too, to connect with families. So that's all I've got.
Thank you. Any questions from the board?
I am curious, like, how did the zoo, like the weekend zoo, how was that organized, or how did that?
Yeah, we're offering, I think we're using our title funds, and we're offering 3 different weekend, I think Saturdays, for families to get free tickets. You just have to register ahead of time and you can get a free ticket. And then we're providing 1 bus of transportation from the school if people want to take the bus from the school, or they can drive themselves. I think some families chose to drive themselves and some chose to take the bus. And then, families and siblings are welcome as well, so the whole family can go. And I know we had some teachers who volunteered to go as well, and then our principal was there. I wasn't able to go, but I think we're kind of featuring, like, the first one was supposed to be our kindergarten, first grade kind of families, and then our next one will be 2, 3, and then we'll have 4, 5 for our 3rd weekend. So that's kind of a fun opportunity for people to get to go outside of Oregon City to get to explore together.
Fantastic. Thank you. I really appreciate the update. It looks like we don't have a report from OSEA this evening.
I have a message for you. Yep. Debbie apologized. She said, "My apologies for being unable to attend the meeting this evening. I enjoy being there with you all and learning more about what is happening in the district. The OSEA will be holding elections later this month for vice president and treasurer. They currently have 2 nominations for vice president. We are looking forward to honoring the licensed staff and showing our appreciation for them and all the hard work they do every day with our students." And she wanted to remind everyone to enjoy the beautiful sunny weather this week.
Fantastic. Thank you, Lisa. Okay, so we'll move on to reports and discussion. Our first report is about Child Abuse Prevention Month with Dr. Crane.
I'm happy to introduce Children's Center, there we go, I can use words, to present to us. And I really want to say thank you so much for being here. This is an important topic that you were able to respond to our request very, very quickly, and I appreciate it. I also just want to let anyone who's listening or sitting here know that we are about to talk about child abuse prevention. And so you may decide to turn your camera off right now, or you may decide to leave the room right now, and that's okay. We want to be sensitive to this is a sensitive topic and a really important one. So thank you for being here.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dr. Crane, and a great reminder. My name is Laura Sisolak, and I'm with the Children's Center of Clackamas County, and I'm really pleased to be here. I was grateful for the invitation, and it's funny because I've been doing a roadshow all month, proclamations and the like, and so I'm always preceded by Volunteer Appreciation Month, and it's evidently also Poetry Month, and maybe a library week or month as well. So maybe you can add those folks later, but you can go on to the next slide. So the Children's Center is a nonprofit 501c3 located in Oregon City. Our mission is to work with the community to end child abuse and neglect through assessment, treatment, and prevention. We are working to build a world where all children feel safe, valued, and heard. We have been around for close to 25 years now in our current structure, and you can move on to the next slide. We provide obviously an essential mission, and I'll talk a little bit about our specific services, but just to ground us in some statistics, unfortunately around abuse and neglect, more than 600,000 kids each year nationally are victims of abuse and neglect. I see a statistic of anywhere between 1 in 7 and 1 in 10 within their lifetime who are victims of abuse or neglect. Neglect is really the most common form of maltreatment. However, you'll see that our center is really there to address particularly physical forms of abuse. We see a lot of neglect and emotional abuse as well, but we see a disproportionate amount of those cases. And then the other thing I usually highlight, because I think it's a surprise to people, is that quite often we're talking about abuse that happens between kids, and we have experts on staff that address a topic called problematic sexual behavior between young kids, and it's something that we do, and increasingly we've had a lot of requests from schools to do training and support around kind of identifying when behavior's on a normal continuum of sexualized behavior and when it turns into kind of problematic behavior. The good news about that is that it's very highly treatable, that with interventions and kind of direct engagement with kids and setting boundaries, that really those kids go on to not necessarily be any more likely to be abusive in the future. Next slide. Also, this is really wordy, and I also noticed that my middle scale was off, but just to say that this, you are all probably really familiar with the student health survey. I'm sure that that all schools in Clackamas participate in that, so that by the kids themselves, their indication of abuse and neglect, it's really much closer to 20%, unfortunately. So when we talk about those 600,000, we know that we're just really seeing the tip of the iceberg, and that there's a lot more kind of undisclosed going on. Next slide. Okay, so what is a Child Advocacy Center? Our organization has been around for nearly 25 years, and our model of child advocacy centers are actually a national model, and there are 24 throughout the state of Oregon. Ours serves Clackamas County, all of Clackamas County, and only Clackamas County, but there are some in other areas that serve multiple, particularly in rural areas where they might cover a couple of counties. Really, our organization was formed to be a trauma-informed place for children and families to come when there's a concern of abuse and neglect. We have a very kind of home-like atmosphere in our center. All of our staff are highly trained in trauma response, and we have what's called a medical model, and we do a full both medical and forensic examination and interview to ascertain what's gone on in the case with a kid. Part of the reason for having child advocacy centers is that we bring all of those partners that are involved in the adjudication of a case to the Children's Center, so that hopefully that child only needs to tell their story once, or at least with less repetition, because that in itself can be traumatizing. Next slide. So we provide about 500 assessments. We're on pace for more than 500 this year. That is that full examination of a concern of abuse or neglect. We're very fortunate to have a really robust therapy program as well, and so we can treat and serve those kids after they've been assessed right there at our center. We do have a wait list. This is an incredibly, as you all, I'm sure, know, mental health access is so challenged in the state of Oregon, but we're really fortunate to be able to offer that to our kids and their safe caregivers. And then we have a prevention program, and that's my role at Children's Center. And so we're out and about in the community. We do predominantly adult education, both parents and professionals, about how to recognize signs of abuse and neglect and to prevent that. There you can see some of our reasons for referrals, and again, it's we skew much higher to physical abuse, sexual abuse than is true in general, the incidence of abuse and neglect. Okay, next slide. Anybody can refer to us, and we do get referrals from school. Oftentimes, it does not substitute for a mandatory report, so of course all of your staff are mandatory reporters, and we will cross-refer or encourage folks to also refer. However, people can reach us directly and say, we've got a family we're concerned about or who needs support, and then we also often hear from Department of Human Services and law enforcement agencies. Again, just to ensure that child and family make their way to the Children's Center so that investigation and their interview is done in a really trauma-informed way. We are primarily serving patients up to the age of 18, but we do see some developmentally disabled adults if our forensic interviewers are well suited to work with them. We do have urgent appointments, and again, this is just how you can reach us. Next slide. Folks involved in the schools here, hopefully you're well aware of the DHS hotline, and then again, you can reach the Children's Center directly as well. So, on a happier, more hopeful note, we're here to talk about the fact that abuse and neglect, it is a very serious topic, but it can be prevented, and we're out to really spread the word about child abuse prevention. And really, it just means promoting healthy relationships, healthy child development, and safe environments for kids. So we really believe that if communities and adults come together and are committed to protecting kids, that we can prevent a lot of abuse and neglect out in the community. Next slide. This is our campaign, Thriving Together for Prevention Month. You can move on. And we do a variety of events out in the community. We really kind of do a big blast during the month of April, but a lot of these things we do throughout the year. And so, we were at the Family Focus Forum that I believe is Oregon City. We do a lot of work with schools kind of throughout the year. So just to let you know that the kinds of things we're doing this month, we are happy to work with districts or individual schools throughout the year. So these are a variety of trainings we have that are predominantly each Tuesday, although coping skills for youth with anxiety and depression, that's actually something we're doing in partnership with OCEA Together, and we're really looking forward to that. That I think happens to fall on a Thursday, but all of these events are free of charge to the community. Next slide. And then we have a number of other events out in the community. We have 2 showings of the movie Screenagers, which we do each year. We do trainings in online safety, which is a big topic for folks. And then we're also doing a Dia del Nino celebration on the 26th at the end of the month in Gladstone and Canby. Next slide. All that information can be accessed on our website. These are some of those trainings, some of those you saw in that list, but other trainings that we also do. That Healthy Boundaries and Behaviors is the training I referred to earlier around problematic sexual behavior. Being a Goldilocks caregiver is our online safety training. Stewards of Children is child sexual abuse prevention. Next slide. And then a few that are kind of more focused for professionals. So we'll do a live mandatory reporter training, which a lot of places do, the online, watch the video. It's kind of a snoozer, but so important. And so we've really found when we're able to do this live and in person, it's really a great conversation, I should say, with mandatory reporters about sort of when should I call and what are other ways I should engage with this family, even as I'm making a report. There's kind of a lot more nuance that we can talk about when we do an in-person training. And I think that's it. I just have some information. Anybody can reach out to us at any time. As I said, we can do most of those trainings if there's a community group or school or what have you interested in having us come. We're happy to come. And I'm happy to answer questions.
Questions from the board?
Just overall, what's the relationship currently with the Children's Center and Oregon City School District?
So we have folks who've worked with the counseling team at Oregon City Schools, and we have been out to, they put on, I believe, a Family Focus Forum each year, so we've been to present at those. And then again, I keep mentioning problematic sexual behavior, that comes up a lot, and our staff person who does that work also does consultations with schools when they have specific cases. So she's both a part of our prevention team and also can consult if there's a specific case, and a teacher or staff member or the parents are wondering about how to sort of set limits within the classroom, as an example. So I don't know for sure to what degree that's being accessed by Oregon City schools, but that certainly is work that we're able to do. I should also say that when people call the Children's Center for referrals, we also can help provide support and make connections for families if they're under stress, if they're experiencing just challenges in their home and raising kids, and it doesn't have to be a referral for that medical assessment. We probably take double the number of referrals just to kind of find resources and supports for families or for professionals who are trying to support families, in addition to having people in for that kind of intensive assessment. So.
Great. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
We
Thank
really
you for the
appreciate you taking the
opportunity.
time. Yeah, thanks. Okay. So moving on, we'll discuss curriculum adoption updates with personal finance, science, and the health waiver. Okay. We're just going to pause for a moment.
Sarah had the first slide, and then I have the next, so we could begin if you'd like.
Okay. Are you comfortable? Okay. Okay, we'll proceed.
Dr. Sarah Crane is leading all of this work. I get to be the curriculum TOSA, so I'm a teacher on special assignment. My name's Jennifer Bell, and I'm joined here by two of our Oregon City High School teachers that will explain personal finance and science adoption, and then Dr. Sarah Crane will join us for health. But we'll just get started. Next slide, please. So the state of Oregon has a timeline for curriculum adoption, and each year they look at another subject. So in elementary, that's a new subject every single year. Just be aware of. So this shows the process for each subject area. It always starts with reviewing and adopting standards. Then ODE convenes a committee to review instructional materials against an adopted rubric for each subject area. There is a process to review materials that haven't been approved by a state team. The state only reviews materials that publishers pay fees to have reviewed. So there is a process to review open resources. We have 3 very different adoption processes going on this year. The bottom graphic shows the 3 ways to meet the Division 22 requirements. The top line is where you just choose off the list that the state gives you, and we're looking at that for science. The middle line is an independent adoption, which we had to do for personal finance because they didn't release a state list, just some recommendations and resources out there. And then for science, there are also some programs that other districts have already adopted that will be an independent process. So we're still working on that process. And then that bottom line is for postponement. And that's what we'd like to propose for health. And Dr. Sarah Crane will speak to that at the end of our presentation. But I'd like to turn it over to Sean to talk about personal finance.
Thank you.
Next slide. Oh, you know what? Not quite yet, I'm
Okay,
sorry.
I'll wait. I'll sit right
I had
here.
another slide. So this is just an outline of the process that we follow in the district. So the first slide was what the state does, and this is what we do for each area. We always ground ourselves in the standards and best practices for that discipline. We always engage our community, the people that will be impacted by the program. So the students, the teachers, and family members as well. So we've been surveying, and we'll continue to get feedback along the way. And then ultimately, after exploring programs and doing some piloting, we bring a recommendation to you. So that's what we have for personal finance tonight. And the next slide there's a new law that you've probably heard about already, and we're really excited about the work that we'll be doing for our high school students. And now I'm going to turn it over to Sean to talk about personal finance. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Sean Coetzee. I'm a business education teacher at the high school, and I'm excited about personal finance because I think it's something that's incredibly relevant for all of our students. So students a little less excited, but we'll get them. It's okay. As you know, beginning with our sophomores, it's now a state requirement, so we're exploring and bringing recommendations for curriculum to you. That's what we've been working on this year. If we can go to the next slide. The process that Jennifer just told you about, this past fall, we put together a curriculum adoption team, and that team was tasked with looking at the standards that the state had settled on, and then essentially exploring what curriculum is out there and what options do we have. And I have to tell you, as a teacher who's interested in his subject, that's fun to be able to go out and go fishing and find lots of things out there. So we then met several times in the fall to explore what options were out there. I know a survey was done as well, a family survey was done asking for input from families about what they would like to see in personal finance classes. I also, what I called with the students, guinea pigged lots of different curriculums in the classroom, and then surveyed them as well, asking them for input about what they had learned and what they thought about engagement, et cetera. You can go to the next slide. And these are the things that we know are important to cover in personal finance. Actually, today in a class, we were talking about credit and credit scores and your credit rating and how important that is. I look at this list as a person who was not trained about these things when I was 18, 19, 20 years old. And most of you, if not all of you in the room and online here, know that time is a huge factor in almost anything to do with personal finance, meaning the sooner you know about these things, the better, particularly when it comes to investments and compound interest, et cetera. So I come from a personal perspective of lessons that I learned to share with them, ways to avoid some of the pitfalls that I made. As I go down through the list here, budgeting showed up again and again in the parent survey as something that was very important for them. Taxes, just checking my watch here. Anybody still working on your taxes at home while you're watching this live stream? Maybe, because they're due tomorrow. Kids don't know anything about taxes, so that's a fun one to dive into with them. We're actually starting that next week for them. And then, of course, just a financial well-being, how to be comfortable and to be resilient and to be prepared with finances. So those are things we're interested in conveying to the students. Next slide. This is just an example from the parent survey of questions that we asked. Also, again, I provided a survey to the students in the classroom. Parents were most interested in things being relevant and things being useful, and we saw, again, things like budget come up over and over and over again. We saw parents being interested in investment and teaching kids to do different investment things. When I surveyed students and talked to them, of course, anecdotally as well, engagement. Make it entertaining. Well, okay, we can't be entertainers all the time, but we can try to do things that are actually engaging to them. And because personal finance is very relevant, that it's relatively easy to do that, at least in my experience. Next slide. So these are the things that we learned from the surveys and the data that we collected. Families, their priority, as you can see, they wanted to hear about things that we were teaching, and of course, those basic personal finance skills. Students, as I've mentioned, engaging materials. Please don't just give me a textbook and a worksheet, but give me something to work through, simulations, et cetera, and we tried lots of different things like that. And my understanding is that personal finance is not a course that is connected to a particular certification, so therefore it might be taught by a wide range of certified teachers. Therefore, what teachers are going to need is a basically class ready to go. Materials that if it's not their strong background, those of us in the business area, something we're used to teaching, but if a teacher in a different discipline was to get this class as one of their responsibilities, they need materials that they're ready to go with. So that's what we were looking for and hoping to recommend to you. So actual recommendations, the last slide here that I have. These are 3 different curriculums that we are recommending to you. Knowledge Matters, Oregon City High School was already using in entrepreneurship. Brent Leong has been using that in entrepreneurship. For those of you that have been around for a while, it's kind of like SimCity, if you know SimCity, the video game that's been around for a while, where you're basically leading a life, a digital life, and doing your personal finances all along the way. And the part of that I tested with kids in the winter, they really enjoyed that. Next Gen Personal Finance, or NGPF, this is essentially a turnkey curriculum with slides and videos and graphics and worksheets that are editable, and someone who has never taught NGPF or never taught personal finance before would be prepared if they had NGPF. My personal favorite part of NGPF is their arcade games. They have these really cool arcade games, things like the Bummer Game, where you spin a wheel and randomly get bad events in your life, and are you prepared with the right insurance, and what if you don't have the right insurance, and what happens, etc. Kids love these games. There's a game called Cat Insanity, which is teaching you about compound interest, and you have to feed cats, but the cats keep multiplying, compoundingly multiplying, and pretty soon you can't keep it. You get the idea. So there's lots of games like that, and the kids really get into that in NGPF. EverFi is one that is basically built on short little animations, little stories, and I was actually very surprised that kids really positively responded to that. And it's also a full curriculum. So we are recommending to you these three specifically, which would cover 80% of what a teacher is using, and giving a teacher then 20% in their own curriculum to decide kind of how they're going to use it. 10 seconds, and then I'll stop. How I do that is I wrap all that in a package of what I call the game of life. You might remember the old board game. So as we go through every step, we are actually giving them a career, and then choosing if they have a family or not, and then they have to pay taxes based on that career, etc. And they finish the class with a fully functional budget that shows all of those different steps in life. So after going through, I think, at least 10 different curriculums in the classroom through the fall and winter, these are the three that we have chosen to recommend to you.
Next slide. I'm Kate Fisher. I'm a science teacher and science department chair at Oregon City High School. I'm pleased to be here with you. We've had a really exciting, I think, process this year of thinking about what we hope for science education K-12 in Oregon City schools. We have a team of about 20 teachers that have been meeting monthly starting in October. We tried to be really intentional about having representation at every level, and then special attention for our bilingual program, especially in middle school, where the content starts to get a little bit more complex, and we want to make sure we have appropriate resources. So we developed a kind of like a mission and vision for what we hope for science education in the district. It's been a really interesting process where we've been able to talk in a vertical way, which we don't get to do very often, about like, okay, what kind of interesting things are we planting seeds with in early elementary K-1-2 that then we get to see blossom in high school as kids are like, oh, I love science. And I think one of the things that we have tried to really think about, I think we're in a really exciting moment in science education, where there is a move away, like a really intentional move away from rote memorization and just kind of accumulation of facts, and a lot more into like, what is the process of science? What does it mean to think critically? How do we work collaboratively? How do we get our ideas out in a way that kind of shows a process of thinking, which is maybe applicable to other disciplines? Which I think is really, really exciting. So we're having these great conversations, really engaged participants in our groups, talking a lot about their expertise at their level, which is just lovely to learn about how much excitement there is for elementary education, for science education. I think that it's really easy to lose sight of that as a person who spends my whole day thinking about science education, and amazing elementary teachers that are doing all the things in all the ways all day. It's really fun to talk about science and how we foster that creativity and kind of like celebrate that natural wonder that students have just about the world. So we have gathered a lot of data. We see information from our students and our families really wanting to have a curricula that is grounded in the natural world, that is about what we call anchors, where you like have an experience and then you kind of try to figure out what's going on. I think that we are currently piloting curricula that really model the next generation science standards in a tangible way, and with an intentional focus on really helping our students think as critical consumers of information and collaboration. And it's at least at the middle and high school, some of the curricula that we're piloting right now are a really different way of thinking about how we teach science. And I'm really excited to be in a place where we have support at the district level and then teachers who are really excited about trying something new that really lowers barriers for all students to be able to participate and invites students to bring their own expertise into the room and talk about their own experiences. And then we get to basically be facilitators of helping them show us their thinking. And so it's been a really exciting process, and I hope that next month I will be here with you telling you about our recommendations. So you can see on the slide, if you just go back one slide, kind of to mirror what Sean was saying about, our families want to know what kids are doing in their classes. Our students really want to do hands-on learning, which I think is kind of what we have as our always ace in the hole in science, is like get up, touch stuff, play with stuff, let's see what happens. And then I think that we've really opened up some great communication, like I said, K-12, about how the needs at elementary are kind of different, not surprisingly, than the needs at middle school, which are different than the needs at high school. And I think starting those conversations and having a space where we can continue those conversations is really exciting. So we have some great, awesome teachers that are putting a lot of time into trying things out with students, and I hope we'll have some recommendations for you at the May meeting.
Just want to take a minute to thank these wonderful people who came and I did not get to introduce. So thank you so much, Sean and Kate and Jennifer. And I was thinking of the small but mighty personal finance team. Sometimes it would be 2 and sometimes it would be 4, but they kept coming and getting excited. I know. And then he'd say, well, my students think this, and so it was a great process, and especially given that it was so small. And then science has been such a robust process with so many people that we felt like we needed 2 nights to talk to you about it. So we were starting now, and then again, we'll have the recommendation in May. Next slide, please. Oh, yeah, I didn't say. We're having a family, that's actually really important. Okay, family info night on April 17th at 5:30 on Zoom. We would love to have families look at the recommended curriculums that we have kind of finalized on and get their input and hear what they're thinking. So we hope that families will join us. And then we'll be back in May to recommend. So we also have one that we're going to recommend postponement, and that's a vote that you could take tonight. And I'm actually going to read what we're saying on why we're seeking the postponement, just so you know what we're telling the state and why we're doing this. And it's allowed, but it is something that we thought really carefully about. And you can see we actually did some of the pieces. So we certainly didn't start the year thinking we would postpone the health adoption, but as we got into it and as we got into the school year, we decided that we would recommend postponing. So we're seeking this postponement and instead plan to collaborate with our health instruction using our current adoption, and we have already started that collaboration to make sure that we're using the curriculum we adopted 7 years ago well and with fidelity and doing the things that we said we would do. Part of this is due to resources, funds, right? And just time to implement a new science curriculum. We have just had a new math curriculum at elementary, so at some point it gets to be too much, too fast, right? If we want any of it done well. But we do also know that the current discussions and potential changes of any curriculums or standards for health instruction may be coming from the federal level. We also wanted you to know that the PE standards, the new PE standards were just adopted. So health and PE typically go together. It makes a lot of sense to do those at the same time. So what we'd like to do is recommend that we continue with our process in that we will focus on some pilots next year and think through the fall, but we don't think that we should adopt at this time. And we don't have a recommendation for that, even though we have had publisher presentations and all those things. Okay. I will tell you that at the bottom is what we're using for our current health. You have this in your packet, but just so you are very aware, and so it's very clear to our community what our health adoption currently is. I think next slide, but I think I already did that slide. Yeah, that's okay. We can keep going. I think we're over time. So final summary, personal finance, we recommended, but we will be voting on that in May. Science will be voting, or we'll also be voting, you'll be voting in May, but we'll have the recommendation of the actual curriculum names. And then health, we're requesting a postponement. And again, I just really want to say how great these three have been, along with so many others from K-12 who've just been showing up and looking through materials. And one time they said, we need longer to stay for science. And I was like, are you sure? Jennifer, can you stay? I mean, they just are in it. They're all the way in it. It's been really, really fun to watch them. And thank you all for your leadership in this process.
Question, the English and math adoptions were all, I think Eastham had the English, and I went there and went through the curriculum, and then the library had the math adoption for the public. Those will be available for the public to review, correct?
We have things at King Campus that people can come and review, and then this one will be showing, a lot of what we have these days is links. So it's a little bit hard to, so what we'll be sharing at the family night is actually links so that people can explore. And then we will also be showing in real time on the screen, you know, what they can see in the curriculums. But it's actually been a really new process to me as well in terms of how much is online and virtual. And even with science, you know, it may be a virtual curriculum and then some great big science kits with sand and things that you can do for fun and, you know, that they'll do experiments with.
Cool. My other question would be, with AI coming on strong, and how is that impacting curriculum? And are there components? I mean, because some curriculum can be outdated really quick with the advent of AI and how we're going to be teaching kids in the future. Are you seeing that in the science curriculum and in the personal finance world? I just don't know. I mean, there's always something new coming, and how kids are going to be learning and using those tools. Are there components in this curriculum?
One of the things that I really like about we're still piloting right now, but where at least like in high school is leaning, is that I think that we're acknowledging that like you can look anything up online. And so the idea of like memorizing stuff and regurgitating it is really not where we want to be with science education. It's really about process. And so there are not like AI components of the curricula that we're reviewing, but I think that because of the way that it's designed, where students need to be in class, they need to be talking with their peers, they need to be drawing models and making models and then reiterating their models based on peer feedback. And then, you know, we're doing a lot of like exploration type stuff. I like it from the perspective of that, again, it's really about process. And it's really about like critical thinking and showing your thinking. And so I don't want to say that it's AI proof, like from a perspective of like how are students showing their learning, but it definitely is putting the emphasis on student process instead of just like, what is this product that you make? And as a classroom teacher, you know, I think that AI is amazing. We just need to frame it. And I actually think that that's a longer conversation that is not related to science curriculum at all, that we should be having, just about like, how are we helping our students see the way that these can be tools that are useful tools and not using them to like, oh, please write my paper for me if I just tell you the prompts.
Yeah.
And I will chime in there and say that Dr. Crane is leading an AI think tank of educators in the district and myself to explore those ideas and how to teach our kids information literacy and explore kind of how we can deal with those models. that it's something that the district is addressing.
Maybe just a 15-second response. I would echo everything, what I've just heard here. I think of AI in the classroom as playing offense and defense. You know, playing defense is building a classroom experience that a student can't just do on AI instantly, right? So there has to be critical thinking involved. There has to be something at the end of the process that shows what they went through. You can't build a budget that takes in all these different pieces of personal finance if it's unique to your situation through AI. But I also think of AI as offense. We have to teach our kids how to use AI. It's the future. So if we're just saying no, then we're not being relevant to the world that they're heading into. So I think as we're exploring new curriculum, as we're designing new courses, of course we have to consider how is AI going to affect that.
And lastly, I'm excited for the personal finance. One of my kids got some checks from graduation a few years ago, and I found them in the door, and I said, "Those aren't savings bonds."
Yeah, invest
And
them.
we'll have to maybe we'll go talk to the nice person that wrote that check to you, but that wasn't a savings bond, buddy. So, and you might know my son, but yes, so I'm excited about personal finance. I think it's really important for kids. Finances are key to success in some ways. Thank you.
I would just want to second that in terms of personal finance. Like, I just think back to myself at 18, and I would have made financial decisions very differently had I had any education in personal finance. And I think it's great the state is requiring that, but I think it's great that we're really exploring the best way to approach it. So excited for that.
So up until this point, there wasn't necessarily a personal finance class offered at the high school.
It was offered, it was an
Yeah.
elective,
Okay.
so it was a course you could take in the business department, but now as of the class of 2027, it's required for everybody, which means, of
Yeah.
course, we have to ramp it up, right? To
Right, and that was, that was my next question when you were talking about other people teaching the class that might not have that same background.
Right.
And how
There
that
are,
looks.
and maybe others can speak better to this than me, but there are, I believe, 3 teaching positions in the business department, and they cover many different courses other than personal finance. So one person in one part of a school year couldn't teach all the personal finance that's necessary. So my understanding is it's going to need to be spread across other disciplines as well.
And staffing evolves each year depending on lots of things, and we usually do these every 7 years. So we want to make sure whatever we create as part of the personal finance program is durable. There was a personal finance law in Oregon until 1999. So if you were in high school like I was before then, you may have had personal finance. But the law expired in 1999 and just recently came back.
I think to your point, though, it was really important to this team to have a scope and sequence, especially when they realized they like pieces of different curriculums. They didn't like one only. There were enough cons to everyone that it was like, well, I want that part of this and that part of this. And we are allowed to do that. But then we said, okay, then we need a scope and sequence, because you can't hand a new teacher, here's 3 curriculums, have fun. It's a little bit what happened to Sean this year, which is why he was such a good piloting person for us. He was like, we'll try it, no problem. But it was important to the team to have a very clear scope and sequence.
And we actually used AI to help us create that scope and sequence. We gave it the standards and said, make us units, and it grouped them up. And then we used the human brains to match the curriculum to those things.
Real quick, dating myself, because I had that mandatory class back in the 80s. I love how you're thinking on that whole game of life, because we did that.
Yep.
And we would come in and we'd have to draw out of the bucket, and we'd have, a flat tire, or we
Yep.
would have
Do the same thing.
no renter's insurance,
we roll
our
dice.
apartment caught on fire from a candle. But I can see that being like a real draw class
Yep.
to get our attendance to be, I got to be in school for that class.
Hopefully.
That's the plan.
Any other questions?
Just as around the support with when the science curriculum then is adopted, and Kate spoke to the importance of continuing to work together, that to have that vertical alignment, that there would be an intention for us to support that, financially, so that the teachers are compensated for their time, and thinking about that with, budgeting overall. That's your role then, not just adopting the curriculum, but then supporting the implementation of it.
We will have a proposal that includes materials and supplies and professional learning time because all three will be important pieces of science.
Thank you.
And I don't know if you know Kate Fisher, but I don't think she'll let this just go. We did it one time and that's enough. Yeah, we're going to stay in contact and we're going to make sure we have some time vertically. Yeah, it's been awesome to see them all work together.
And we do have a great team, K-12, that will be ready to help.
Fantastic. All right. Thank you so much. We really appreciate your time
Th-
and all the
thank you
work
all.
you've put into this. Okay, so we're going to move on to 2025-26 strategic plan goals.
Excellent. So very excited to bring to you strategic plan goals for year 3 of our strategic plan. So as you will recall, we created a strategic plan in partnership with staff, students, community members, and it's a 4-year strategic plan. So we're in year 2. And we have worked through this process by working with our leadership team, working with our board, working with our instructional leadership team, which is staff throughout our school district that come with their principal. We have ILT 3 times a year. And just really looking at what were the goals, did they help not only meet our strategic plan goals, head us in that direction for year 4, but also the accountability measures by the state, looking at data to look at the iterative process to help us get closer to those strategic plan goals, which is really exciting. Our goals, after we share them with you, we will work with our principals to help them craft school improvement plans, because school improvement plans ensure that we move our strategic work ahead, as well as making sure that our departments also look at how they tie into these goals. We've worked a lot with the Center for Educational Leadership's tools around the 5 dimensions of quality instruction, which are reflected in Goal 1, but we've also looked at the instructional leadership framework and the principal support framework, so our departments understand their vital role in the decisions they make to support our principals and our school staff to stay focused on our kids. So that's all work that we have ahead of us. One of the things that is really important to us, and I think it was part of what you did as a board as well, is just to look at the goals and think about what are the action steps. And then with our instructional leadership teams, we asked them, if these were the goals, what resources would you need or what support would you need? So we're kind of teasing through that as we develop plans moving forward to meet the goals, and also offering schools as they work through their school improvement plans. They will also come up with action steps and necessary resources and time so that we can align that work. So again, instructional excellence, this is a lot about our 5 dimensions of teaching and learning and measurables around math and language arts. We really are narrowing that because the state in particular, those accountability measures are very important to us, as well as the multi-tiered systems of support, and that's really thinking about the interventions to help all kids. As we look at career and college readiness, this is about continuing to help our students have 6-year plans and post-graduation plans, as well as helping our teachers understand more about those career and college areas, and expanding opportunities for our students in the high school, connecting them to CTE and post-secondary opportunities. And then robust systems of belonging and well-being. This one got kind of narrowed specifically around making sure that there's ways to connect kids and families, but then also the last one really focuses on attendance. I think that's a real important area. We know that when kids feel connected to school and they have a person that is looking for them and is excited to champion them, that means that they have a greater likelihood, but then also recognizing as we think about our K-2 attendance, often that is outside of the school day, and that involves some important adults in their lives, and we want to make sure that we have plans to support and connect with them as well. And then for engaged communities, continuing to help our parents and our family members connect with our the knowledge we have about our students in a timely way as we partner with them, which we're really looking at the way we communicate, as well as our communication around attendance and progress reports, and then helping our students be meaningfully connected to volunteers. You heard that, and I appreciate the questions that you had about how we get more people involved. And I think there's been a real purposeful expansion of getting our kids, especially at middle high school, to see more career and college opportunities, which hopefully will help them get into some internships and some job shadows. And then last one, for safe and engaging learning environments, we've made probably the most growth in this one over the last couple of years, but just helping with the protocols for safety and security, continuing to do those kind of tabletop exercises so that we're ready for anything that may come our way, helping to refocus our work around facilities, especially as we have new shiny outdoor spaces that people will want to use that are turfed and are accessible year-round. And then just a lot of work with the bond. So I think this is a great new collection of goals as we move closer to our 4-year strategic plan goals.
Fantastic. Any questions from the board? Great. Thank you, Dr. Spitzer. Okay, moving on to our bond update with David Hobbs.
Excuse me. Good evening, everyone. It's great to be here again. As our bond is developing, so are my presentations. So we've got a few slides that we'll try to have as a consistent theme going forward to provide you with updates in general on our scope, on finance, and also on schedules, so that you'll have an opportunity to ask questions about those as we go forward. We had a very successful kickoff meeting to our Community Bond Oversight Committee on March 31st. The committee elected a chair, Greg Stoll, and a vice chair, Macy Tisdale. They will be coordinating the committee, at least for this first year. We have a couple of additional meetings coming up, one in June and one in August. If there are any board members that would like to serve as an ad hoc, we are definitely interested in having you participate as an ad hoc member. The first presentation from the Community Bond Oversight Committee will be happening at the September board meeting. We'll be trying to present updates, or having the Community Bond Oversight Committee present updates to you twice a year. And so that first one will come on our 6-month anniversary, so in September. We are continuing to work on our scope for the Fields and Grounds project at the high school. We're working on finalizing that. We're looking at still options around restrooms, around storage facilities, turfing several of the fields, looking at water sources into our grounds. We have no potable water to drink on our high school grounds. We're trying to put some opportunities for that in, and also looking at lighting controls in this first phase. Excuse me. We are also moving back on the scope for Pioneer Stadium and working on development of that scope. We had a very, excuse me, productive meeting with the city. Sorry, the allergies are getting me here this evening. We had a very productive meeting with the city, talking about some issues around what we can do from a natural resource overlay and geological hazard. As you know, our stadium sits in a giant bowl. Those are very steep slopes. Those are geologic hazard zones, so we had to get some ideas from the city on what was permissible and what our process was going to be to get through approvals associated with that. So we have a path forward now, and now we're working on refinement of that scope, so I'll be updating that for you as we move forward. We are continuing design on Phase 2 schools. We've been working internally with Dr. Spitzer and Dr. Crane and many of the members of the executive cabinet on some framework for education specs. We'll be going out to the individual schools, the elementary schools, to work with both staff and community members on what some of those challenges and issues and opportunities are in the schools, so we can help to refine our specifications for our schools and our design. That will be all 6 of them that will be involved in this. So we're trying to get an idea from all the schools at the same time, and really having all the communities hear the opportunities and challenges that are present in the district and what we can do to solve those challenges. And then we're also doing physical tours of Phase 3 schools. That will happen on May 27th, which I think is our last non-school day for elementary students this year. We'll be taking our design teams through those schools to really look at the basic conditions in those schools, give them a first look, and sometimes maybe a second look into those school sites to really understand what we need to do in those schools as we go into that design for the Phase 3 schools. If we go to the next slide, thank you. As I think you're aware, we had a very successful bond sale on February 19th. We received our principal and premium were deposited on March the 5th. We had a sale of just under $163 million in bonds, which is awesome. The original premium, we had such a good day in the community, very little bond competition, so we were very hot in the market, to say the least. So we ended up with getting about $13.6 million of premiums. That's immediately on top of our 162. We did have some costs for issuance that were just under $1 million, about $900,000 for a variety of fees associated with this. Gave us a total proceeds for the bond of $175.722 million. That's what Jason has in the bank right now that he is watching and investing for us as we move forward. So we're excited to have that. And then a little bit later here in the evening, you're going to be hopefully approving a grant opportunity from the Awesome to add another $6 million to our bond program as we go forward. So we are looking at an initial investment back into the community of $181 million, which is awesome. It's a great place to be starting our bond program. And that number is going to grow because, again, Jason and his team are working on investments of this money as we're going forward, and we're expecting to receive a considerable additional amount in interest that, again, will be reinvested into our schools as we move forward on the bond program. A couple of critical items on this. Of the $163 million that we have out there, we're required to spend 85% of that money within 3 years. That's spend. That's checks out the door, that money out of Jason's accounts and into the community and the contractors and consultant partners' hands. On the Awesome grant, as that gets implemented, we're required to spend 100% of that within the first 3 years. That's a reimbursement grant, so we put the money out there through the use of bond funds, so we don't have to use additional funding from elsewhere, and then the state will reimburse us for the $6 million that is expended. And we've set that up, as you'll see in the later approval item, on where that money is proposed to go. And then on schedules, as I mentioned, we're working now and starting design on the schools, but we are really moving forward on the scope for the high school fields and grounds and on Pioneer Stadium. We expect those to start in late summer or early fall of 2025 and likely go into 2026. They'll work around sports seasons that are happening at the various locations to make sure that we can get that work well underway. 26-27 summer will be Oregon City High School career technical education spaces. Candy Lane Elementary, Holcomb, and John McLaughlin will be in Phase 2. And then Phase 3 in the summer of 27 and 28 will be Beaver Creek Elementary, Redland Elementary, Gaffney Lane Elementary. And then I put on here Phase 4 because undoubtedly we will have a Phase 4. There will be money that comes from a variety of sources, whether that be interest, whether that be funds that are available through cost savings in our individual projects, through the program reserve that we're setting up. There will be money that will continue to be invested in additional projects in Phase 4 back into the elementary schools and CT. It will stay within the same scope that we have for the bond program, but that will be projects that will be developed in Phase 4 as we go through our process. There will be things certainly that we cannot do, but we'll come back and try and address some of those issues when we get to Phase 4 of the bond program. Any questions?
Questions? Go ahead.
I'll go. So you're talking about beginning design, the design process for Phase 2. Who are we working with on that design process?
That's Brick Architecture, which you approved agreement for, yes. I believe, in February. And they are the principal designers. And then we have a variety of sub-consultants underneath them in the technical specialty areas of design.
And then those conversations are taking place in conjunction with staff and community input, correct?
That's correct. We've started at the staff level, and as I just mentioned, we're going to be going out to the schools, working with design teams that are staff, principal and community-based at each of the elementary schools and drawing them into the process for feedback on the design for the schools.
And how will people be notified that that's happening, that they might get the opportunity to be a part of that?
Sure, great question. We already have an interest form that Caitlin has put together on the website for individuals in the community that are interested in getting involved in the bond program. So that is one avenue they have, and we would continue to encourage them to apply through that mechanism. The second one will be reaching out to the principals at the individual schools and asking them to reach out to their community members to draw in those community members that have an interest and availability to participate in that process.
Okay. And how are staff being selected to participate?
That will be the same. We'll be requesting that of the principals in the individual schools, and there'll be opportunities that all of the schools, myself and our team, will go out with the designs and actually attend all staff meetings at school sites so that we really involve all of the staff in at least understanding what's happening and how we're approaching their buildings as we go through this bond program.
Okay, and I've asked you this question before, and I'm going to ask you this at every board meeting. How are we being assured that staff, when they're in those conversations, are being listened to by architects who have great plans but aren't necessarily in those schools every day and know exactly what those schools need?
Sure. Well, it's a feedback process, right? So we want to take the input from staff who are working there day in and day out. There are oftentimes other challenges that are outside of our control, such as load-bearing walls that can't be moved, that restrict our ability to do certain things. But we want to take the feedback from staff that we're getting, look at opportunities to incorporate that into the design. Hopefully we can come back and say, hey, look, we're able to do this. If we're not, we also will come back and say, hey, look, we're not able to accomplish this. This is the reasons why, and this is how we're going to try and approach the issue in your individual building.
And that information will be made available to the board in some way so that we're aware of kind of what's going on.
By all means.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Can I just add real quick? I appreciated this question and this cycle because we've been asked, why did you start with fields and grounds first? And it is exactly for the reason that you're talking about. Like it is a very complex process and we want to have lots of voices and we're heading into summer and teachers and staff tend to leave during summer. But it enables us to get those standards in those areas that David was speaking about, and then let the architects start looking at the buildings and coming up with things so that when staff come back in August and September, there's ideas to float past them to get their thoughts about, and then to start adjusting the plans for.
And I just want to say, like, I use this example all the time, and it frustrates people, but it really frustrates me, is that during the middle school bond in 2018, if you were to go to Gardner Middle School, they do not have a school library because a decision was made by the architects and the people who were running that process at the time, none of which are here now, but over the objections and the suggestions of staff and district librarian, they basically don't have a library. And I want to make sure that sort of thing is not happening this time.
Sure, and I think between myself, Dr. Spitzer, who's watching this along with me very carefully, and all of you, as well as, more importantly, our Community Bond Oversight Committee that is going to be very involved. We had a great discussion with them about the real need for transparency. We've heard the concerns that came out of the 2018 bond, very similar to what you're describing. And I think we're very committed to making sure that we are as transparent as we can possibly be. If anyone has questions about what we're doing or why we're doing it, we're here to answer those questions.
I love the word transparency, and I think the community craves it. We went out and sold this bond, and we kind of had buckets of money at each building.
Correct.
And now we have more money, and it's approximately 8% of the budget. So are we going to increase each of the buckets by 8%, or are we going to hold it in contingency because we don't know when we're in a remodel, we open the wall, or maybe we do want to move that bearing wall?
Right.
Is that going to be, what is the plan for the extra 8%?
Sure.
And also the awesome money that wasn't spelled out what we were doing for it.
Absolutely. Well, let's start with the awesome grant. So when we put and I was not here for it, but during the pre-planning process, exactly as you said, the team of very talented individuals that have a lot of background in this worked through looking at our facility condition assessments for each one of our school sites and putting buckets of money into categories. Air conditioning, we heard that earlier tonight, of a need for that, which we're certainly aware of. Putting walls up in classrooms as simple examples. Those types of things were put together and added up to a total, but there's only so much money that we had available to put into the bond. So in some cases, there were schools that in the initial allocations were slightly below the numbers that were put together for our initial needs in those school sites. So for the Awesome Grant, we've chosen to push $2 million, or recommend pushing $2 million into each of 3 schools, Beaver Creek, Redland, and Candy Lane, specifically because they were slightly under the allocation that was initially suggested for the school sites. And so we've chosen to invest, or recommend investing that awesome money into those programs, really to kind of work towards an equalization on the need in the individual schools. The needs are different in each one of the schools. They're different sizes, so they have different dollar allocations associated based on the size of the school and on their true needs that we have going forward. So that's kind of the plan for the Awesome Grant, which you'll be having under consideration here in just a little bit. But in terms of the remainder of the money, you're correct. So our initial allocation of the bond premium, the $13 million of additional money, we've put initially into a program reserve. And we've also moved some additional money that was allocated in some buckets for things that either we think we over budgeted on, for example, the bond management budget, which includes things like my salary, like our consultant partners in OTAC, their costs associated with that. We were able to look at that and say, look, we've got additional money here. We want to put this and move it out of that bucket and put it into program reserve for the time being. The additional piece of that is around, I'm losing my train of thought here, 1 second. We've got that money going into program reserve, and the goal with program reserve is really around, sorry, that's what it was. The additional bucket of money was for modulars and temporary facilities. We don't know at this point exactly what we need to do at our individual facilities. We will work through that as we get into design. Where do we need modulars? How do we move kids around so that we can get into the schools and do that work? We've pushed that for the time being into program reserve, and we'll reallocate it to the schools as needed. So it is a contingency, is really what it is. And the way that we're looking at it is, a good example of this is in our pre-bond planning, we assign numbers based on square footage on how much it costs to put up a wall in a classroom. Until we really get into the design, really look at the structure of the building, really understand what the wall types are that we need to build, what the materials are we using steel, are we using wood, are we using masonry, what do they look like going forward, what do we have to do with changing doors and putting new egress in as we build walls, how do we get students out if there's an emergency. Those things are all unknown in pre-planning. And so we really have to have a program reserve in place to deal with those types of issues coming up, as well as you mentioned, issues when we take a wall apart. What are we going to find? We don't know, right? These are 40, 50, 60-year-old buildings, and we don't know what unforeseen conditions we're going to actually come across in those buildings. So the program reserve is there through these initial 6 projects, through the fields and grounds, through the CTE spaces, to help us with those unforeseen conditions and really help us refine as we refine the design and invest into those schools. So the allocation of it will be based on what those needs are as they develop. And we will not spend it all in the phase 2 projects, right? We will be holding significant reserve back to address the same types of issues that we're likely going to encounter in phase 3. So proportionally what that looks like today, I can't tell you because we don't have a set formula. We really need to get into the design, understand what's happening in our schools to figure out what money we need to move around. That money we're moving around, again, is all transparent, and in particular with the community bond oversight, they will be working through our recommendations. We will come to them with a recommendation that says, hey, look, we've looked at this particular school. It has the following issues in here. We believe we need to take this money out of our program reserve or contingency and put it into this project, and this is why. and they get to have input and recommendations on that, that then ultimately come back to you as the board as again, a very transparent way in which we're dealing with that money and making sure that we're spending it as wisely of a manner as we possibly can.
Thank you. I love these conversations, and I know some of the elementary schools that are going last is like, is there going to be any money left for me? But with buckets, I like the buckets of money and the contingency, because as a contractor, I know when you remodel something, you don't know what the contractor did before you, or the repair, or whatever, what's in the walls, or asbestos, and so on. And I think I love these conversations because we can assure the Beaver Creek, Redland, and Gaffney Lane parents, there's going to be, your buckets are going to be there. We're going to take care of your schools like the other ones, but we cannot do it all at the same time because of having to relocate students, if maybe, or renting modulars, and or the construction community being able to tackle all those projects at once.
Correct.
So I
100%.
appreciate you coming here at these meetings and the transparency you're bringing. So, and I'm looking forward to the oversight committee. So, and maybe sitting on that after I'm off the budget committees. Maybe like year 2, we'll switch. Or not the budget committee, the bargainings.
Yeah, after bargaining. You may have said this, but we've all said a lot tonight. Will the oversight committee be presenting to the board? I believe you said they would be. Is that twice a year?
They will be,
present to the
twice
board?
a year. Yep,
Okay.
so they'll be here in September, and then again in March of '26 will be the next 2 sessions, where they will come in independently and give you a report on what they're hearing from us and what their thoughts are on our progress on ensuring compliance with the bond, spending our money wisely, and giving their own independent decision. That's them coming to you to tell you what they are seeing in our progress on the bond program.
And I have a sinking feeling that Director Kinchel and I will be sitting in on some of those meetings.
Any other questions? Thank you so much, David. We really appreciate all the updated information and the transparency. That's really helpful. Okay, we are going to move on to our consent agenda. For those who may have not joined a meeting previously, a consent agenda is just items that we put together that are recurring or standardized approvals that we've all reviewed in advance as board members, and we approve them together for efficiency. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Thank you.
Second.
Ms. Beck, will you please poll the board?
Dr. Kinchel.
Aye.
Dr. Blackwell.
Aye.
Dr. Halpern.
Aye.
Dr. Stroh.
Aye.
Dr. Wilson.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. And so we will move on to our action items. First up, we have approve integrated grants application.
I was unaware that I was allowed or expected to say something, so I would like to say it has been under 30-day review. It's been on our website. We have 0 responses as of tonight. I just looked again to make sure. It was a super collaborative process between the committees that came together, Shelley Smith in the back there, and just the admin teams. And I'm excited about what we can do with the grants that, even if we have to do them with these rules and those other rules, I am really excited to have been able to think through this and know that we have money for these purposes.
Fantastic. Is there a motion?
I'll motion to approve the integrated grants application.
I'll second.
Is there any discussion? Okay, great. Ms. Beck, will you please pull the board?
Dr. Stroh.
Aye.
Dr. Kinchel.
Aye.
Dr. Blackwell.
Aye.
Dr. Halpern.
Aye.
Dr. Wilson.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Great. Moving on, we will have approve health curriculum waiver.
Do you have any questions for me, or shall I say anything? I know I spoke to it earlier.
We discussed it. Is there a motion?
I'll motion to approve the health waiver.
Second?
Fantastic. Is there any discussion, board members? Ms. Beck, will you, oh.
No.
All right, for real this time. Ms. Beck, will you please pull the board?
Aye.
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 Aye. Fantastic. Moving on, we have approve amendment for construction management services with OTAC Incorporated. David, did you have anything you wanted to?
Just this is our program manager for the bond program. It's a not-to-exceed amount billed on an hourly basis.
Fantastic. Is there a motion?
I'll move to approve Resolution 2425-229, approve amendment for construction management services with OTEC Incorporated.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Discussion.
David, just with the hours and those are the going rates, and you've vetted these with competition, and obviously we've approved OTEC as our contractor, and I guess speak to that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. We did a competitive RFP for these services. We received 3 proposals. Of the 3 respondents, we shortlisted 2 firms, did additional interviews with a variety of staff members here at the district to go through that process. And as an outcome of that, OTAC Incorporated was selected as our program manager.
Thank you. And they're highly respected in the construction community, I would say. From what
They
I've
are.
heard.
They worked on our bond program in 2018, but they've also worked on numerous bond programs throughout the metro area for the last decade plus. They were previously known as Day CPM. And have been, are very, very well respected and very competitive in the marketplace in terms of their rates associated with other firms. So they're a great selection.
And I know we have, this is for management services, we have stipulations that labor will be union labor.
We don't have requirements for union. We have requirements for prevailing wage to be paid by contractors. That does not impact program management as professional services. So this contract is under professional services, but there are requirements to pay prevailing wage on our projects associated with construction.
Prevailing wage would make it competitive with the union scale.
Any other questions? Okay. Ms. Beck, will you please pull the board?
Director Stroh?
Aye.
Director Canchola?
Aye.
Director Hoffman?
Aye.
Director Blackwell?
Aye.
Director Wilson?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Moving on to approve Oregon Schools Capital Improvement Matching Grant, that's the Awesome Grant, and authorize signing of agreement.
We are seeking the board's approval and acceptance of the Oregon Schools Capital Improvement Matching Grant, affectionately referred to as Awesome, and the authorized signing of agreement. In 2015, the Oregon legislature passed a Senate bill that initiated the Awesome Grant. The intent of the program is to provide matching funds for school districts that hope to pass a bond. And the heart of it was to try to boost local support. A district must pass a bond in order to receive these funds. Following the successful November 5th, 2024 election, the Oregon City School District was notified that the district had been awarded $6 million of Awesome Grant from the program. In order to finalize this Awesome Grant process, the school board must accept the grant and improve the grant agreement. Tonight, the board is being asked to accept these funds and approved the attached resolution.
I would like to move to approve Resolution 2425-230, approve and accept Oregon Schools Capital Improvement Matching Awesome Grant, and authorize signing of agreement.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Awesome.
Ms. Beck, will you please pull the board?
Director Blackwell?
Aye.
Director Canchola?
Aye.
Director Stroh?
Aye.
Director Halpern?
Aye.
Director Wilson?
Aye. Thank you. Moving on to approve superintendent's contract extension. So we are, you've seen the attachment for the contract extension, and we're being asked this evening to approve that. I think we've reviewed and discussed it previously.
I'll move to approve the superintendent's contract extension.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Is there any further discussion?
You want us to, right?
Fantastic. Ms. Beck, will you please pull the board?
Director Stroh?
Aye.
Director Blackwell?
Aye.
Director Halpern?
Aye.
Director Canchola?
Aye.
Director Wilson?
Aye. Thank you. So our last action item is action to be taken based on the discussion we had previously in our executive session.
I move to take no action on the public complaints filed with the board and to delegate the authority to the board chair to respond to the complainants.
Fantastic. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any further discussion? Ms. Beck, will you please pull the board?
Director Halpern?
Aye.
Director Blackwell?
Aye.
Director Stroh?
Aye.
Director Canchola?
Aye.
Director Wilson?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Okay, so we are going to round out our meeting with board member comments. Dr. Blackwell, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I enjoyed the passage presentations at Gardner. Got to listen to a couple eighth graders talk about where they're at and where they're going. Had the opportunity to read to first graders at Candy Lane with Rotary. The water committee gave books around water is life. Went to a fundraiser for the Oregon City High School class of, 25? They had a bingo night for their grad party. They're continuing to do fundraisers to put on a good party for the kiddos after graduation. And then I'm headed to the OSBA Legislative Day next week in Salem.
Fantastic.
Well, it's been a very busy time because Little League Baseball has started, so that's taken over much of my life. But I would say I'm very excited about what's going on. We had a good start to bargaining with our licensed staff, so I'm very excited to kind of continue that process and reach some good negotiations and reach some good conclusions. And I should also add that I'm very excited for tomorrow, which is Kindergarten Connect at Holcomb, where my daughter will be attending, as she will be a kindergartner next year. And I will be in Salem to do some advocacy, yelling at legislators, see what we can do over the next few weeks as the legislative session kind of continues and then peters out. So that is kind of get it all passed.
Okay, I have a couple things for you. On CAIS's Facebook page, they are doing a Oregon City Robotics Team Skynet 2550 bottle drop fundraiser. They are collecting cans and bottles to help their program, and that will run from April 15th through April 26th. So go check out their Facebook page for that. Then, tootling right along, we have Oregon City Together, in addition with the Children's Center. We are hosting Understanding Youth Anxiety and Depression. That will be held on April 24th at Alliance Charter Academy from 5 to 7:30. And I hope to see you guys there. And then on the heels of that, we're coming up onto May, which is Fentanyl Awareness Month. And we have our big family forum presentation being held at the Officer Libke Center at the Oregon City Police Department, and that will be happening on May 6th at 6 p.m. And this is a huge, really well-done professional thing on fentanyl and other drugs. And we've also added this year a parental what's the word? Interactive. So we're setting up a whole teenager's bedroom. So you can come in and see where they could possibly be hiding if you are suspecting of any type of substance use. And so I'm excited for that because the more you know, the better off you'll be in raising your children. So I hope to see you at those great activities.
I don't got a lot, but we started bargaining for both the classified and the certified, so that's been what I've been kind of doing as my volunteer time on the board. Looking forward to that, some good conversations in both groups, and just everybody enjoy the sun and take a little bit of time to enjoy those little kids because they grow up really fast. Because mine, Director Helper, and you're going to go in kindergarten, mine are out the door and it goes by quick. So for all those parents with littles, just enjoy them, I'd say.
Thank you. I want to just make sure we reiterate how grateful we are for our volunteers and our educators. You help bolster our education of our students, our children, and we're so grateful for everything that you do. I also wanted to just say how excited I am to be moving forward with our bond work and really encourage folks to check out the bond website and volunteer to get involved. We came together as a community and we passed this bond, and your voices will help shape what those dollars do for our community, so we'd really love to hear from you. And I will be at Family Math Night tomorrow night at Candy Lane, where we will be playing math games and eating pizza, and I hope to see some other Candy Lane community members there. Dr. Spitzer, do you have anything to close us out?
I would just like to add, last week I was able to join the mayor for her State of the City presentation, and I was pleasantly surprised and just full of joy to see the alignment between our strategic plan and many of the goals that the city has as well. So I'm excited about that partnership. And then just this week, as Tumwater Middle School is off to outdoor school at Camp Magruder and Camp Merriweather, and they could not have picked a better week. So I hope the students and staff have a great time.
Okay, so our next meeting will be April 28th. We'll have our budget committee session and our work session, and then the next regular meeting will be on May 12th. And it is 8:56, and we are adjourned.